Recording now.
Great. Okay.
I'm just going to go off camera for a few minutes while I finish stuffing my face with my lunch. So I'm still here.
Sounds great. All right. Okay. Well, good afternoon. This is Brenda Bartlett, Chair of the Oregon Board of Accountancy Peer Review Oversight Committee, PROC, and I call this public meeting of our committee to order at 1:03 p.m. on Thursday, May 13th, 2025. The meeting's open to the public and is being held by Zoom, and it is being recorded. The purpose of the PROC is to provide oversight of the administration of approved peer review programs in order to provide reasonable assurance that peer reviews of Oregon licensees are conducted and reported in accordance with the minimum standards for performing and reporting on peer reviews. PROC will review and submit to the board for approval peer review programs that comply with the minimum standards for performing and reporting on peer reviews. PROC will provide oversight of approved peer review programs to the board. PROC will comply with all other requirements as provided for in OAR 801 Division 050. In the performance of duties as a member of a committee appointed by the board, all committee members will support the mission, goals, and values of the board. Committee members will not disclose confidential information that comes to their attention during the course of carrying out their responsibilities. Requests to any committee member for copies of public information or for a public statement relating to committee or board matters will be referred to the executive director. Liaison board and committee members are expected to attend all meetings and be prepared for the discussion by reading the agenda material prior to the meeting. Committee members are expected to participate in the individual review of applicant files as assigned, providing timely notification to the committee coordinator if a potential of conflict of interest exists. Likewise, committee members must provide timely notification to the committee coordinator of any conflict of interest in any matters to be discussed. So, introduction of committee members, the board liaison, and the committee support staff. Members of the committee, please remember to mute your microphones during the meeting to avoid necessary background noise, and do not use the chat room feature for any discussions. When you want to speak, you can unmute yourself and state your name prior to speaking. Should any technical issues arise, we'll pause the meeting until they're resolved. So now we're going to take roll call of all the participating members and guests. For any participating guests, please identify yourself at the end. So Brenda Bartlett, that's me. I am here. John Howell.
Present.
Kim Conway. Wait, did I just get a note from, no, Kim, you're here, right?
I'm here.
Okay. I did just see an email from Carrie saying she's traveling. And then Pamela Parks.
Here.
All right. Board staff is here via Zoom. Andrew Barlow.
Present.
Mary Lynn Varner. Is Mary Lynn here? I'm sorry. I don't have, oh, there I see her. Okay. I see her. I just don't see her. Well, she's here.
Her headset is having some issues.
Okay, that's fine. And then Martin.
Present.
And Quinn Stoddard.
Here you go.
All right. The OSCPA peer review program representative, Darlene Bowles.
Present.
And then our board liaison, Haley Lyons.
Here.
All right. Any guests? I'm not seeing anybody, but any guests? Zoom or at the office? Okay. It doesn't look like we have any guests today.
Doesn't appear to be.
Sorry?
I was agreeing, no, there does not appear to be any guests.
Okay, great. All right. So to review and adopt the agenda, the usual reminder applicable to all PROC meetings that minimum quorum is 4 voting members. And I think we have that. We definitely have 4 voting members at this time. So I think we're good with that. There's no guests, so I'm assuming no public comment. And we do need to adjust.
Do we have 4?
Sorry. I think we do. Me, you, John, and, oh, Pamela. Yeah,
Pamela.
she's up here in
Okay,
the
is John
corner.
on? I didn't see him.
He is.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, he was on, yeah, he said, yeah, he's present. His camera's off. There he is.
There you are.
I was eating lunch, so I.
No worries. My screen must just be dropping people that don't have their camera off completely, so that's my bad.
All right. And so I think the first order of business is that we do need to adopt the agenda. And what I need is a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you, John. Any second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Kim. Okay. We will proceed with the agenda as adopted. All right, so we have some old business that's sort of been hanging out there. It was a consecutive non-pass firm. My recollection was they were passed with deficiency and then a fail. And it sounded like from Darlene's update that they had some corrective actions due March 31st. There was, and so we can't find this one. Andrew's been working on it diligently, but I've not been able to find the details of it or when they're going to be discussed at RAB. I'm going to keep it for now. I'm going to table it, keep it on the agenda and try to find it. I'm going to go digging back through all of my emails and all of my notes. I do have some notes. I know it was an audit firm performing a single audit. I recall that we had discussed that the firm had to recall some of their reports that were not sufficient, or what the wording was. And so, but we can't find them. And we're going to keep finding them. And then also we are going to need to come up with a good way to track these so that, we can't, since we don't know their names, we don't know their firm number, everything's redacted. It's really hard for the committee to be able to follow what's going on when we can't find it. So I did take some notes, and so far my notes haven't been sufficient for us to find these. So, yeah, I'm going to keep looking, and I'm hoping that we can get this back on the agenda. I know that what I do recall is that PROC was considering whether this firm should be referred to the Board of Accountancy, feeling that you guys probably remember some of this. I don't know if anybody remembers more than I do that could help Darlene and Andrew find this firm. But I think we were concerned that perhaps they needed to be referred to the board because of the trajectory from the past with deficiency to no improvement at all and not any kind of progress to their fail. And so anyway, that I know that was our concern. So I don't want to let it drop. All assurances to you that we will try to find it.
Brenda and Andrew, or maybe just Andrew, I am ready to talk about a firm that has a pass with deficiency in 2020 and a fail in 2023 that the RAB discussed consecutive non-pass at our last RAB.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
I don't know if that's
because
the firm
the
you're
date.
referring to, but there is a firm.
That's the date. Is there any way to get Andrew, what we needed was, I needed to get the information on both of we wanted to refresh the committee on what had happened, because we can't have a great discussion until we have the documentation. And Andrew just hadn't been able to find that documentation. He tried really hard. He's been looking up all kinds of stuff for me. But Darlene, that sounds like the firm I'm looking for. I know my notes say it was a 2023 fail. And I know that there were 2 action items left remaining that were to be taken care of March 31st, and that RAB had anticipated talking with them at its next meeting. So That
So
sounds
there-
like the right firm. I just don't have the redacted information to be able to provide to the committee.
Okay, so there's another firm that also has, I don't know if it's a past deficiency and a fail. Past deficiency 331.20 and a fail on 331.23. Different from the firm that we talked about at the last RAB, but they still have corrective actions. They had corrective actions that were due on 331.25. Those are turned in, but they also have corrective actions that were due 6/30 or that are due 6/30/25.
Okay,
Of course, those have not come in. There's 3 of them. So that will be talked about at our August RAB, which I believe is before the proc.
okay. So the 331.23 is consistent with my notes because it looked, I think it was, we were looking at a 12/31/23 report, which 6 months before that would be 3/31/23. So
Well,
if
and we
you,
had talked about that the corrective actions were due before our next meeting, so.
right, we were told last meeting that the corrective actions were due March 31st. I didn't know about the June ones.
It's 2 separate firms.
Okay, so we're only tracking one firm and that's what I'm trying to get. The one, because most everything that else that we've been presented with, we've been satisfied with the actions of the RAB and said that appears reasonable to us. It was just this one firm. And so I have, like I said, I have some notes. If Darlene, if you could get with Andrew after this meeting and give him the name so he could send those to me.
We talked
and
about
I-
it yesterday, and so I
I
thought
just haven't received them yet. Everything that I've received by email has been 2019 and 2021. So I don't have anything from 2023 as the fail. So I'm trying, what I really want to do is just isolate the one that we talked about. We've talked about a lot of them, but this is the only one we've ever said, oh, we want to follow the process on this one.
Yeah. If I may, Madam Chair,
Yes.
there is 2 separate issues here, and what I want to focus on is it does appear to me from what Darlene just said that there has to be a better way for us to support this committee around the tracking around this stuff, because there's really not just the issue of the firm that we did catch and then said, hey, here's the stuff that's due, can we do follow-up, right? But it now appears clear to me that based on what Darlene just said, that there should have been a heads up to Brock a lot sooner about the second firm
Right.
that's been in the process, right? And so what it means is that at some point, for whatever sets of reasons we do not know yet, there was a disconnect between us and OSCPA as the administrator on, are there firms that have issues with consecutive fails or are there not, right? And so far, up until the last proc, the answer was always, there's just one firm. And that's the firm that we kept on the proc agenda under old business with the follow-up for March 31st, right? But
Right.
now it looks like we missed another firm. And quite frankly, not just for this meeting, but probably for quite some time. So I want to separately just focus on the process issues, tracking issues, and what we need to do to support PROC better on the back end between us and OSCPA, because that to me is kind of like just a process issue. And I view that one as separate and distinct from the substantive issue of finding the right 2 firms and getting the materials to you and making sure that those redactions occur, because that's essentially to me a case-specific set of follow-ups that we need to work on with you. But I think we also need to do a little bit of a separate just process and tracking follow-up, because something went not in the right direction here. And I am a little concerned about that. I want to just make sure we get back in the saddle.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like for at least the last 2 or 3 meetings, which would be what, 6 to 9 months, maybe 3 to 6 months, we haven't had any consecutive non-passes. So I don't know if we've missed some, but I know this one we've been tracking since,
Yeah.
I think, January 2024. And so I've just been trying to kind of sleuth it out through our agendas and notes that I made at the time. So yeah, we definitely want to be sure that we're getting the most recent, every meeting that we're getting the consecutive non-passes, but also a better way of uniquely identifying them so that we don't, the current way that we've got them is that they come to us as firm A, B, C, D, but that's on that date. And then if we get another slew of them, you know, the next meeting, it's again firm A, B, C, D. So I think I think Andrew's addressing that by he's going to give them some unique identifiers for us. And then we can just start tracking it that way. So that'll be helpful. But I think perhaps, and so right now we just need to find that firm that we've been tracking and then make sure that we've had the information for all of the firms. I don't know the timeline between us and RAB, but we haven't considered a consecutive non-pass for at least, I know we didn't, I don't think we did in November. I know we didn't in January, and I know there were none for this meeting. So we might have in November, I can't remember, but so that would just be making sure that we're capturing those.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you're looking for input, but I know back when I first started on this committee, we had like a spreadsheet that was tracking them. And somehow letters or numbers or something were assigned to these firms. And I think there for a while, there was only like 1 or 2 firms, so it seemed a little bit like overkill. But maybe going back to some sort of a tracking mechanism like that, instead of just getting, like Brenda mentioned, all the redacted PDFs, we're really kind of clueless as to, you know, any sort of a identifier on them.
went back-
Might be helpful.
I
I
went
kind
back
of
to
remember that too.
I went back to old agendas from the teens and found that, and we'll continue that. And it showed that they were submitting it, that were submitting even firms that had failed or not passed just once, just to keep them on the radar.
Yep, it was just a kind of a tracker.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so I will continue or get that up to date for the next meeting.
Okay,
That would be
that's
great. Thanks,
great.
Andrew.
Thank you for remembering that. I'd forgotten that, but I
Mhm.
do remember that now.
Yeah, and I think all we're interested in, correct me if I'm wrong, is just the firms that have a fail, that have a previous pass with deficiencies or fail, right? So we've got two, we don't want the ones where they're pass with deficiencies, first time pass with deficiencies. I don't think we even want the ones that are consecutive pass
We
with
do need
deficiencies.
the consecutive. That's what's in the OAR, as we'll look at
We have to look at
consecutive
consecutive,
non-pass.
well, non-pass. But a pass
Right.
with deficiencies is a pass rating.
Yeah, I think that I think that and I don't remember the wording in the OAR, and you might, but we have been keeping on our radar the consecutive not passing, which yes, I understand that, but we've been looking at the passing with deficiencies as well.
What the RAB does is if they have a 2 pass with deficiencies or 2 fails or a combination of a pass with deficiency and a fail in either order 2 consecutive times, once their corrective actions come in, the RAB will once the second non-pass or fail comes in, the committee will look at the review and then most always will assign corrective actions. So then that delays the analysis of whether we refer them to the AICPA because we have to wait for the corrective actions to come back in.
Right.
Once those corrective actions come back in, then the RAB will go through the analysis of do we refer them to the AICPA? And that's what happened with the firm that I was thinking we were going to talk about today, which is the one where the RAB did do the analysis at our last RAB meeting. But that's how the process goes. And if they have 3 in a row, so 3 strikes, they're out. Then we don't wait for corrective actions to come back in. We have the discussion immediately.
And doesn't just have to be fail, correct, Darlene? Because I think that's what since I've been involved in the PROC, we've been looking at anything that's a pass with deficiency or a fail, not just 2 fails.
The RAB looks at pass with deficiency or fail.
Yeah.
That's considered a consecutive non-pass.
Yeah,
In
and that's what
any
I believe it
combination of
is for
those.
PROC too. Yeah, that's what we've been doing as well. Okay.
But not a pass with deficiency followed by a second pass with deficiency, Darlene,
I
correct?
think
We do look at that.
yeah, and
Look
they've
at that.
been,
Okay,
That's
yeah, and
considered
we've
2.
looked at them too. But we have always, in the times that I've been where we've always discussed them, but always felt comfortable with them and moved on. So, basically close the book. This is the only one in my memory, which isn't that long. I haven't been here that long, but that we did not close the book on is the one. And then I'm not sure we know about the one you're talking about, Darlene. I think that what I need to see is both of them and then go back and match up with what we have discussed at the PROC to make sure that we've actually discussed.
Yeah, I mean,
just
Andrew and
don't
I
know.
started this last night. It was about 4:45.
Yeah.
Yesterday, my headset kept going out, and then he was going to try to get a hold of you, I think, before 5. But anyway, we were starting to go through every year because I have data back from 5 years. Which firms, Oregon ones, have our RAB done a consecutive non-pass analysis on? And we were just going to kind of tick and tie and make sure all of those had made its way to the PROC. But we ran out of time and my headset wasn't cooperating. So I can get with Andrew and go back several years and figure out where we are. What did the PROC miss one? And then now I know of 3 that are coming up. So we'll make sure those get on,
Yeah,
and they all should be
haven't-
able to get on the August agenda because I believe our RAB meeting is prior to the PROC meeting in August.
I'll send a meeting and invite out for that, Darlene.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you, because we haven't reviewed any of these in a while, so I just want to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm looking at one of them from 2023, I think here. I'm looking at a name on here that I know for sure it was discussed at the PROC. So I think it's probably just going to be from 2024 on.
Except for the one that we've kind of kept the book open on, which was a 2023 one.
Right. And that's the one yeah. It's the one I thought we were going to talk about today. But anyway, I'll get with Andrew and we'll get it all figured
Okay.
out.
Appreciate it. So we'll table that for now and catch back up with that at our next meeting.
Since Darlene's ready to talk about the one, do you think we should get the update on that?
Well, we don't have the materials to be able to review, which I mean, that I guess, Darlene, if you want to talk to us, but I'm not even sure it's the one that that was my problem was we didn't really have an opportunity to see what the things, what the 2 peer review reports came up. Darlene, if you want to refresh our memories on some of that, it might be helpful.
I think the one I was thinking about today that I thought we were going to talk about today, I don't think it's the one that you're thinking of.
Okay.
Because I thought somewhere along in the conversation, or maybe it was a conversation I was having with Andrew yesterday, you thought they were in the muni business or something. That's
The
the firm
one
I'm
that,
looking
yeah, my
for.
notes say the one we were keeping track of was perhaps, I wrote down single audit. I think it had something to do with a single audit.
Yeah, and that's not the one that I
Okay.
am ready to
Okay.
talk about today.
I remembered one that had it wasn't consecutive, but it was kind of an egregious first fail that they audited a municipality in Southern Oregon area, and they had to redact their audit.
Recall
Not
it.
redact, yeah, recall it.
Yeah, they had to recall and reissue. It was like a small school district or something like that.
Yeah, but that
is what it
was just a single fail. It wasn't a consecutive.
Yeah, and
That one doesn't ring a bell with me, but me.
Well, that was the one that we'd originally looked at. They were doing municipal government audits. They were in rural Oregon. And you know, the concern there was they were one of the few auditors that were local to some of these rural municipalities and districts and stuff. So there's a definite need where they were. I remember thinking that very strongly, but they were just very much struggling. And it was a fail following a pass with deficiencies. Is that what you remember, Brenda?
What I don't know about location. I don't remember if I remember location, but I do remember fail followed by pass with deficiencies, and it was definitely single audit services. So
Yeah.
that has been the one that I've been looking at. That's sort of what my notes.
That's the same one I recall.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's one we've been tracking on our agenda item this entire time. So that's the one we're trying to make sure that we do our due diligence on, and then any others that we may have missed.
Yeah, and they were due with 2 corrective actions that were due 3/31, and they were after our January meeting. And I think that was what we decided was they were after our January meeting, so we are gonna wait for the RAB to look at them. And those were extended. They'd had the corrective actions due and they got an extension on the corrective actions. And so we're going to wait for them to submit the corrective actions to the RAB and then see what happened with that. I think that the other concern on that one, which we had discussed in our meeting, was that they'd had corrective actions that required them to hire an outside reviewer to do engagement quality control review or something like that. So that was the corrective action that they were to hire. And I think the question from the committee was, okay, but did that person then report to the RAB, that quality reviewer, and say, yeah, we completed this stuff, or did they submit something from the quality reviewer as a follow-up to that? And it seemed like to us, based on the information that we have, we weren't able to be sure if all they needed to do was to hire this person and identify them, but then that was the end of it. And I think that was the other concern, because it didn't seem to, that was with the first peer review that they had. And we're saying, well, gee, if they did all this stuff, then it should have been better, right? But it wasn't. And then there was the consecutive non-pass. So that, I think, was really the concern. And that was when we talked about it, Brenda, in committee, where we decided, yeah, we need to have better tracking on this.
Yep. Your memory is so much better than mine, but that's bringing it all back to me too. So yeah, that's exactly what the situation was.
Okay,
I
good.
think
All right,
I
good.
think I know which firm it is. So I'm checking with Jennifer. I'm actually teamsing her on the other side, and then I can get with Andrew. But if it's the firm that I'm thinking of, they had a lot of corrective actions. I believe it was a PWD and a fail, and they had a lot of corrective actions. They are rural, so I'm just asked her if they do single audits, and then she can tell me. But a lot of CPE, they had to join the AICPA Government Accounting Audit Committee, something which would lead me to believe it's munis. And and those corrective actions are in. They have a second set of corrective actions that are due June 30th, which aren't in, and it's a pre-issuance review and 2 post-issuance reviews.
Okay.
So the RAB came down pretty hard on them. So I think I know which firm you're talking about, but I can work it out with Andrew.
Okay.
And again, that since they're due June 30th, I doubt an extension request has not come in. If it comes in this late, the RAB's probably not going to approve it. And then it should be ready for the August PROC meeting.
Okay.
Which I can't remember the date, but I think I've determined with Andrew yesterday that
I think 9th or 10th.
Our PROC is before, or our RAB is before the PROC.
I do have a calendar. Just need to bring it.
Yeah, I think the PROC was 19th and RAB was 9th, possibly. But there was like about a 10 to 12 day buffer between the two.
Yeah, which
On
should be plenty of time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
RAB is on the 8th and the PROC's on the 19th. There's plenty of time between that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Darlene, just to clarify, so it sounds maybe like that the corrective actions came in March and the RAB maybe reassigned more.
No, that was all the initial.
Okay, okay,
When the second consecutive non-pass came in,
okay,
again, they didn't do the analysis of do we refer, but they still discuss the review and assign corrective actions, and they've assigned a lot of corrective actions.
okay, okay. Okay, well, yeah, if you guys could follow up and let's make sure we got the right firm, and then we'll just put it right back on the August, and the RAB will have discussed it, and we'll have a lot better information at that time.
Yeah,
And I appreciate all your digging, both of you.
yeah. Then if you've
Good
got
luck.
that other multiple or consecutive non-pass, then we can add that to the August agenda as well.
Right, there should be 3.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
But I'll
we'll
work it
have
out with
3.
Andrew.
We'll expect to have 3.
And if I may, Brenda, I offer one suggestion to kind of take the pressure off also of you, right? Because I felt really bad that all this stuff yesterday crescendoed on you the day before the committee meeting.
It really crescendoed to Andrew.
And the reality is that, as you indicated, right, if we're going to have an effective review at the PROC, right, we also need time to redact and for the committee to be able to review the redacted materials. So here's my suggestion, right? I think that we already have an offer from Darlene that she's about to execute to do an internal follow-up so we can kind of get to the bottom of this, do the tracking, get to the right stuff. Second piece I want to add on to that on my end is I'm going to make sure that there is an internal kind of pre-meeting with you like 4 weeks before the next PROC, just to update you on where we are so that we can make sure that any questions on do we have the right firms or not, here's where we're at and our stuff with OSCPA, that we can get that to you like a month before the next PROC. So we can make sure that in the 2 weeks after that, we get the right materials in the right manner to the committee in a way that the committee can also review it. So I think it needs to be a 2-step. So Darlene, bless you for setting something up with Andrew as a follow-up, but I will also set up a follow-up for a month before the PROC, just with you, Brenda, to ensure that we are kind of on track and that you know exactly how far we're at with OSCPA and those pieces.
Yeah, because ideally the committee should be able to read that stuff before, so they're able to, kind of discuss and ask any questions they have. So I like that idea. I appreciate it. I think that'll help us get on track.
Okay, thank you. I promise I'll be more quiet now.
All right. All right. So, new business. We've got a couple committee member reports. One was from Carrie, and she's not going to make it, but I can give mine. Did I go to the January 17th RAB? No, I went to the March RAB. The agenda, I'm sorry, it says January, but I went to the March RAB. And just a really brief overview. There was 1, 2, 4 were discussed. No, 3 were discussed. I took notes on 3 of them. These were just pretty straightforward. System review, 1 MFC, they accepted as presented. There was one, I think, that looked like it had 4 MFCs that were advanced to 2 FFCs. None were repeats. And there was some issue of some licensing under previous name was expired and a new license hadn't been attained. So I think that the RAB was going to follow up on that. And then the other, the system review they passed both years. So the recommend to accept as presented, none were opposed. It looks like there was another review, and the firm had requested that not all staff be required to attend so I guess there were 4 to attend the recommended risk assessment course assigned. They wanted to limit that just to partner and manager. And the RAB had a really great discussion over whether, I was really impressed by the discussion, so I wanted to bring it up to y'all. whether, why would you exclude entry-level staff from a risk assessment topic? Because they need to know what the risk assessment is or what that even means in order to do their work, right? I mean, they're doing the audit procedures. They need to know what the risks are as they go through those. So it was a repeat finding. And they didn't think that the training would take more than an hour. So they basically denied both requests and expected the firm to comply. So it was a really robust discussion, and I enjoyed how everybody brought a lot of good perspective to it about risk assessment, which I think is obviously really, really important to our industry. So that's my report on the RAB meeting that I attended. We also have 3 RAB meetings coming up, one in May, one in June, and one in August. Wanted to see if anybody wanted to volunteer for those. The only one that I could not do would be June 20th. I'm going to be on vacation, but happy to go to any of those that we can't get volunteers for.
Just to put a little note in here, I have Pam as coming to the May meeting, and we had very few reviews to present, so we did cancel that.
Oh, Pam is coming to May. Okay.
And I
Okay, so May was
apologize for
canceled.
not getting that. I should have let Andrew know that the RAB was canceled. So I think there were only like 3 to discuss.
Okay, so that was canceled and moved to June.
Yes, so those will get rolled into June. So
Okay.
Pam, if you want to just bump to June, we could do that, or you can pick another.
Yeah, I already confirmed that I could do the June with whoever it was that sent me the invite to the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Did she let you know that it got canceled, Jennifer?
Yeah, yes,
Oh,
yes.
well, see, she's way ahead of us.
Yeah.
She's
All right.
great. Okay, Pam is for June, and Jennifer already knows from my staff.
Okay, that's awesome. And so the other one was just August 8th, and I believe I can do that unless anybody else would like to. They're just fascinating. So want to give everybody the opportunity to. Oh, John, did you want to go ahead and go there?
You're on mute.
You're on mute still.
Yeah, I did. I'm happy to do it. I don't need to do it, but I mean, I did August last year. I was just looking at my notes, so.
Okay. All right, we'll sign you up then. I appreciate it.
Okay,
As board staff, am I able to attend?
Who's talking?
Andrew.
That's Andrew.
Oh, I don't believe so.
Okay, and that's where I need to get permission possibly from AICPA to attend another jurisdictions.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So we are, the other thing it says new business, but I actually think this is a little old business. We're talking a bit about, we do need to still select a vice chair, but we also were going to get an update from staff on recruitment. So I did get a list from Mary Lynn. Were you able to send that out with the agenda, Mary Lynn? I didn't look. She's still having trouble with her headset.
I think so. I can send out the list real quick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what I would like to, I have the list. I was the only one. I was thinking it was going to go out for the members of the committee. What we were looking at for recruitment was a couple things. The things that we were looking for was perhaps having that statutory requirement that they're actually working in peer review. So we've got people eligible for peer review. So we meet the statutory, but I think we were looking to recruit somebody who's actually working in peer review right now, if we could find somebody. And we were also looking for that larger firm. We've got a lot of small firm, kind of rural areas represented right now. We're looking for a large firm.
So, hey, Brenda, so
Yeah.
Martin's probably gonna shush me here in a minute, but the likely new liaison to this committee is from PwC. which I realize isn't, it's at least still a voice that can weigh in on that big front. That doesn't mean we should not look for additional committee members with the
Right.
big firm front, but she is she's an audit partner at PwC. So
Okay, that's great news.
No shushing.
So in terms
There will be
of
other
recruitment,
opportunities.
I think what I was, what I really, I did look at the list. I didn't know anybody on there, and I don't really know how we've traditionally gone about recruiting. But the list did help isolate down to what we had discussed last time. So bigger firm, kind of more in the metro area. I don't know any of them. So I don't know. I know that the way I kind of got recruited to this firm is maybe somebody knew me. And so does anybody have any history, Martin, maybe with, the way that we should go about this?
So I just want to be humble here a little bit for a minute and just say that this process has always been a little bit behind the scenes, what Byzantine. The one kind of clarion, kind of like consistency across the enterprise. And when I say enterprise, I don't just mean PROC, I mean all of the board committees, is that essentially this is one of those areas where the board chair really has a prerogative for the appointment. So the board itself doesn't get involved. This is a board chair kind of a deal. But essentially, how the board chair even gets to make that decision, what information they get, when they get it, and so on, it's been a little bit messy over time. History-wise, not terribly consistent in terms of how that works. I haven't certainly been as good, both with Haley and her predecessor Joe, about being consistent about even keeping the committee appointments top of line. I think what's a little bit unusual here, but I think in a really good way, is I actually was really impressed that even though that's not necessarily the norm with other committees, that you were willing to dig in and saying, hey, can we figure out who's expressed an interest and actually look at these people and see what makes sense from a PROC perspective, which is like, why didn't we think of that? That makes that makes perfect sense, right? Because it allows me ultimately to have a better discussion with Haley. Now here we have the irony that the board chair happens to be still the current board liaison because of so it kind of does a little bit of a strange thing with the sequence. But I just want to, first of all, just simply even commend you for helping us, which is normally just a staff trying to work kind of behind the scenes with the board chair thing, and actually bringing this into here. And I actually haven't even discussed this with Haley, but I thought that was actually a really cool thing in terms of committee engagement, seeing if we can get any valuable feedback from the committee on who might make a good candidate so that we can have Haley consider that. Does that help?
It does. So I guess what my question would be is, since we've kind of isolated and we do have a list, but we don't know anybody on that list, what's the next step for us? Because I think this is, I've forgotten, but I know one of our members is going off. Is that Carrie or you, Kim? I can't remember which one. It's Kim. That's what I thought. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we're going to be down to 4.
Yeah.
And Kim's been so gracious about continuing. So I think that would be probably of immediate concern of trying to get some recruiting done.
Yep.
A larger group.
So I'm just looking at the list Mary Lynn just sent out,
Mm-hmm.
and at least just looking at the work organizations, a lot of those don't seem to be in public practice.
Mhm.
That's
And
what
so I
was
feel
worried
like the
about.
list, to get it down to kind of what we've previously identified as like someone at a bigger firm in a metro area. I mean, there's a KPMG person on there, there's a DeLapp person. I mean, it seems like you've got 3 to 5 people that would be kind of the most obvious, at least of the criteria we've already discussed. So it feels like following up on those couple wouldn't be outrageous.
Yeah, I was really surprised too. Lots of private practice on
Which is
that.
interesting to me, but
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Did they know what the peer review oversight committee is?
I didn't,
Maybe.
I didn't see the
Maybe.
lap one on here. Am I missing it?
I saw
Yeah.
it in the email.
Oh, okay.
But
with
I also
the
could have just
email?
read that wrong. Um,
Yeah, I see KPMG.
Uh-huh.
I'm not
yeah, it's row 50 or 23. Sorry,
Must be
where's the
fine.
name?
Oh, that doesn't have, yeah, there's no firm name.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I see,
The
yeah, I
email.
see the address. I recognize the address.
Yeah, over in the email column, it's a DELAP address.
Gotcha, okay.
yeah, I see that too.
Some of these people though, I do know a few of them. There are people that are in private that were in public for a long time. Some of these people, so I don't know, where that goes. The people that are more ancient than me, I don't know about
Martin,
that.
when we talked about laws and rules and BOAC the other day, was there anybody on that? I'm trying to remember if there was anybody on that sort of list of kind of isolated folks that we were like, well, if they, aren't interested in this, there was kind of a hierarchy. I mean, laws and rules is like is a huge time commitment. So if they say no, then it's like, well, what about? And was there anybody that we had identified for proc on that list?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
your OAC list right now
Okay, yeah, okay.
that we were looking at, but it does give me some ideas on how to frame some of those conversations.
Yeah.
Essentially, what you're doing is you're giving me public relations strategy advice on how often can I get somebody, put someone in a position of saying the word no until they get to yes.
Okay.
So, okay. Well, I think maybe my question is, what could we expect in terms of timeline?
Yeah.
To try to make sure that we just, got a decent sized group and some fresh voices would be great.
It seems like we should reach out to the DELAP and the KPMG people and kind of see, hey, you noted on your renewal, you'd be interested in this, you're in the area we're looking for, and see kind of what their sort of sense is.
I'll take that on this week if you're good with that, since you dual role here of not just board liaison, and it saves
Mhm.
a call to the chair saying, "Are you good?"
Right.
If I can take that as direction from you, I'm happy to make that part of my outreach this week.
Great. Because I think what I'm hearing is that nobody knows either of those two people to either say, yes, they'd be a great candidate, or heck no, we won't go. So yeah, that would be great if you could reach out, Martin.
Yeah, we'll do that.
If we meet somebody at continuing ed, who should we refer them to? Should we refer them to Martin for recruitment? Should we do it that route? Should we refer them to Brenda? The reason I ask is I'm going to teach at the OSCPA Accounting and Auditing Conference. I'm going to teach a section on the new quality management standards, and I was going to talk a little bit about because it affects peer review preparation that firms need to do internally. And I could put something in my material, say, hey, if you're interested in serving on the PROC, contact this person. I just don't want to be the contact person because I don't feel like that's my role. So
that would be awesome.
Yeah. So what would be the answer to that? Is that Martin? Okay.
Martin.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that
Okay.
idea. Thanks, John.
I think that's a great idea. I don't
is
know.
that okay?
There you go.
I'll do that. Yeah, okay.
John,
awesome.
when is that? When is your little class? I might need to
It's
be in on that.
it's June. Let me get my calendar here.
It's June. It means good attendance. So everybody is going to be hungry for their CPE credit.
I think that's right. It's let's see, June 17th. Yeah, it's,
Coming
which is
up.
Tuesday, I think if I have the right month here, yeah, it's Tuesday, June 17th. Yeah, and it's the OSCPA Accounting and Auditing Conference. It's put on by the Accounting and Auditing Committee of the OSCPA. It's an all-day conference, and I believe it's planned to be at OSCPA Center for in-person, but also available for remote. So, which is nice. People that live out of town can attend, so.
I've attended
you.
it before. It's a good conference
Yeah, I have to.
every year.
I
Mhm.
think I have too in the past, yeah. Okay, and then, okay, so moving on to item D, the update and discussion on consecutive non-pass firms, we kind of did that as part of our old business. So I think that we've addressed that. And then Martin, did you tell me you had an update on our upcoming agenda items down at the bottom about member CPE?
I do, and Haley, I'm happy to share that with you because I can now confirm that this issue actually did come up substantively at the February board meeting. Because in essence, this was deemed to be a discussion where it would be better, rather than giving it directly to the Laws and Rules Committee, to first have the board have a substantive discussion around this issue in terms of giving guidance to the Laws and Rules Committee around, are you comfortable with this? And if so, is there any framework around this? And one of the reasons why I did that, in all honesty, is just buried deep in history. Because at one of my first board meetings that I attended when I had my first run with the board, so this was still back in 2012, that issue had come up back then. And at that point, the board's answer was, we don't want to cross that Rubicon, right? So I was transparent with the board saying, hey, board, like over a decade ago, said, no, we don't want to go down that road, but we now have this interest and we have a changed environment in the profession, right? So what does the board think about this? And Haley, I don't know if you want to weigh in on the substance of the discussion at all, but essentially the board landed in a very different spot this time and basically said,
Oh, yeah.
it does make sense for us to develop a framework and ask the LRC. I don't remember if we put any frames around that, but Haley, do you want to just jump in here? My memory fails me.
No, I mean, I think that the conversation was definitely like the work that a lot of our committees are doing are, I mean, there should be some credit, for it in that, tackling some really big issues. And I feel like we might have identified some more specific. Well, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back because we're talking about, we've talked about this a bit at the NASBA board from a NASBA board meeting standpoint, that I'm probably conflating the two, but it, it was people were very supportive of having a CPE option for committee service.
Yeah. So that's the good news.
What is it? What's the construct for it is a little bit of the open item.
So that's the good news portion of the update. Now, I also want to be transparent that while we now have essentially a green light from the board to go to the Laws and Rules Committee and saying, go forth and develop this in detail, which is basically what happened at the February board meeting. And our current Laws and Rules Committee Chair, Jason Orm, gracefully accepted that additional charge on his small plate. That's kind of the transition to the bad news, right? The bad news is this won't happen quite as quickly as it normally could because we have an enormous amount of rule writing ahead of us for, quite frankly, all the right reasons. So we don't have a formal legislative update on this agenda, but I'll slide it in kind of gracefully here into this agenda item for the update. We literally have, two bills that, in addition to our budget bill, that are moving through this legislature. It's going phenomenally well. We've been through all the committees, a couple of floor votes by now. Everything's unanimous, which means we have two bills to implement. One is a scholarship bill and the other one is a licensure pathway bill. And essentially that work has to come first. So it means that we will not really be able to, until the fall, once those rules are exposed, to start crafting policy type rules like the CPE credit. And I don't think we'll be able to bring those to the board before either December of this year, maybe not even until February, but it is now formally in our process, but it will take a little while to actually make that happen. Is I think the transparent way to answer that kind of the bad news piece. So it's yes, green light, but it won't be a fast green light.
Yeah, thanks for that update. I appreciate it. I think, let's see, C, I think I just forgot to take off from last meeting. But D was the guidance from NASBA's peer review compliance committee. Was that, Martin, something you wanted to present?
I thought
I don't know where that came from. Wasn't on my list, so.
It came from me. I thought that it went out with the committee materials. Again, I don't know if that's actually true, but I'm gonna just very quickly see if I can find it. Actually, oh no, wait a minute. This is not the Maryland thing that just came through. Sorry. Sent items, hang on. Maryland and NASBA. Yeah, there we go. So this is an email that came out from NASBA to the state board members and executive directors around a NASBA peer review compliance committee. Released an email in April that essentially updated a document from the NASBA side called Deficient Reports and Monitoring Guidance. And I don't really know substantively, I haven't had a chance to review it, right? But there is apparently an updated guidance document from NASBA. I will confess some level of ignorance on my end, like since this is peer review is mostly run on the AICPA side, but this is a NASBA peer review compliance committee recommendation. I just thought, number one, the committee needs to be aware. I knew that it was not going to be something we would discuss substantively, but with your consent, Madam Chair, what I'd like to do is simply forward that email to the board members, since we've just discussed it in the public domains, just
Okay.
and on their own time, review it, click on the link and see, so that we can have a substantive discussion on it, maybe at the next proc, and say, does this matter to us in some way? Are there things in there that are suggested that are good ideas that we are not doing? Or is it pretty much a ho-hum? We're already ahead of the game. We're already doing all these things. But I thought that since there is guidance that came out nationally from the NASBA Peer Review Compliance Committee, that at minimum, the committee needs to be aware and have a chance to review it and see if there's anything in there that matters to us from our oversight perspective.
Okay, yeah, I would love to have that go out to the committee members, and I will add it as a discussion item to our next agenda. I just found it by Googling. At least the one I found is only 4 pages long, but
Okay, yeah, I'll send it just to you for right now, just to make sure that we're talking about the same thing. I just found my original email, so.
all right.
Just quick question for my notes. Are we punting for voting for vice?
I'm sorry, I missed that. I had my printer going, sorry.
Voting for vice chair, are we punting that again?
Well, I was kind of hoping I was kind of hoping that we could get ourselves a little bigger. We've
Okay.
only got 4 people. And, but we can, yes, I kind of punted on it, but we
Okay.
should probably discuss it. We should probably discuss it. It was on the agenda. I'm hoping to, since I know that we're going to be a committee of 4, it would be nice to have kind of a larger committee to put some input on that. But if anybody, wants to nominate a vice chair or vote on it at this point, I would definitely entertain that. Any comments from the committee members? Thoughts?
I agree. I think we should wait till we get a little bigger.
Yeah, I mean, we've been on the committee together now for 7 years, Brenda, and you've only missed one meeting. So, and, you know, one of the other members can just serve as chair pro tempore for the meeting. So I think that that's worked out fine. I mean, unless we have a really strong requirement to have a vice chair at this point in time, what'd be nice to get is somebody that isn't in their third term to be the vice chair. And then you maybe
Right.
got a little bit of training ground for somebody to take over the chair position of being able to watch the chair in action. So it'd be
Right.
nice if somebody who's in their second term or first term, or maybe somebody who's in their second term could be the vice chair rather than people that need to go off, you know, like me in 2 more years. So that might be a thought too, but I don't want to force anybody into it, you know. I don't
Right.
want to
And
shoot.
that's been my thought too, is it could be kind of a learning thing, get us a little bigger and have people who just, you know, even if they have a year under their belt, that might be a great vice chair, right? And so I agree. I think we're a little small and a couple of us kind of going off here soon. So anyway, all right. Well, I will put that on the TBD agenda so we don't lose track of it, but hoping that we get some more members that we can start working with as well. All right. Well, if there's nothing further, does anybody have any other questions, comments we need to talk about?
The only thing I wanted to say is we just completed our peer review. And it is my 11th. So you can take 3 times 11 and figure out how long I've been doing this, but it's our 11th peer review. And none of them were a PWD or a fail. So they were all passed. So anyway, I'm very happy about that. I kept teasing everyone here that it might be my last peer review, but I already talked to Darlene and we even have to have one the year that I am potentially talking about quitting. So I think I'm going to have one more peer review, but I just, you know, I want to pass. So I just want to finish on with a pass, but it's been an interesting evolution. And I think that for somebody that started out, you know, when peer review was new, just to kind of this sort of change in mentality about it, I don't think it ever raised to the level of public visibility that people really believed was going to happen back in the 1980s, you know, when this was being hatched, so to speak. I don't think it ever raised to the public disability. You talk to a lot of people about it and you go, oh, peer review, and they're like, what is that, right? And even people from big firms, a lot of them with the really large firms, what's interesting is, you know, like my daughter's an assurance manager for Moss Adams. Who does the peer review? It's done up in the national office, right? And it's like nobody knows, nobody at her level, even though she's a senior or she's an assurance manager, knows anything about peer review. They don't know anything about it. So bigger firms are interesting sometimes. Smaller firms like you and I, Brenda, might have more exposure to it because we've been responsible for it.
Right.
With our own firm, right? And so it's an interesting landscape out there. My perspective after 33 years of doing it. So yeah, one of my firms that I was at for a long time, I teased them to have a book in. They had a PWD the year before I started with them, or before I took responsibility for the area. They had a PWD the year I left. So the year after I left. So I'm like, there you go. There you go. You know, now you know what you need to do, all the things that John was doing that nobody took up, you know, when he left. So there you go.
Well, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome. We're in the middle of ours as well. So
Are you? Yeah.
starting. Yep. So
Well, you're going to beat the clock on the new quality management standards. So you don't have to have that in place. You can get done before then, which
right.
I was happy about that too.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody. I will, unless we have anything else, if there's nothing further, I will adjourn the Oregon Board of Accountancy Peer Review Oversight Committee meeting at 2:06 p.m.